Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests, to the first 23rd annual D-Pad Summer Games. I'm your host, Hypermode, and today's event will be the Triathlon. Representing the four nations today are Bebel of Imperium Ludum, John from Youbetchastan, Lindsay from the Daisy Baby Bitch territory, and José from Tierra de los Hermanos Hook. Our athletes will simultaneously trek across the beautiful and dangerous lands of Hyrule. They'll start off in the 𝗚𝗔𝗠𝗘𝗦 Shrine on Eventide Island. From there, they'll swim to shore and make landfall on 𝗚𝗔𝗠𝗘𝗦 Harbor. After making landfall, they'll ride their master cycles through a complex path, taking them across various landmarks in Hyrule, ending at the Proxim Bridge. Once there, our athletes will abandon their master cycles and complete the rest of the race on foot. The race ends once the athletes cross the treacherous Hyrule Field and cross the front gate of Hyrule Castle town ruins. Alright, it seems like our athletes are ready atop the entrance of 𝗚𝗔𝗠𝗘𝗦 Shrine. And they're off. Once again, our representatives here today are Bebel of Imperium Ludum, John of Youbetchastan, Lindsay of Daisy Baby Bitch territory, and José of Tierra de los Hermanos Hook. All of our athletes here are gliding in the same direction, with José having used the column of air to propel themselves a good deal higher, and easily gliding above the bokoblin camp below. Seems like they are waiting for a cue, and Lindsay is the first to hit the water, followed closely by José. Bebel and John are deciding to spend a little more time gliding over the water rather than swimming, an interesting tactic. We'll see if it does them any favors. Now, aside from John, it is the first game. This is the first game for Bebel, Lindsay, and José. John, of course, has participated in both the skateboarding and fencing games from the previous 2 days, and he has a medal to show for each of them. Our players here are dodging a couple of Octorok rocks. Unfortunately, Lindsay takes a hit, but that does not seem to be stopping her. They continue to swim. Their goal right now is to swim north around Cape Kales and eventually make landfall on 𝗚𝗚𝗘𝗦𝗏 Harbor. Thus far, Youbetchastan and Ludum and Imperium Ludum both have 2 medals to their name, while Tierra de los Hermanos Hook and Daisy Baby Bitch territory only have 1. I'm sure all of them are just as thirsty for their gold as anybody else. Here our athletes are, by necessity, taking a stamina, or consuming a stamina item. Such a swim would be impossible otherwise. They would drown and respawn back in the shores of Eventide Island. So far, all of our athletes are very adamantly tanking those Octorok hits. Thankfully, they have a lot of health and armor to their name, so this shouldn't pose too much of a threat for them. It seems like John and Bebel's gliding strategy has proven to have paid off, as they have made the first landfall at the first leg of this swim. And John opts once again to repeat the strategy and using Rivali's Gale to cut down on the swimming. Bebel is presumably right behind him, followed by Lindsay and then José. John and Bebel are fastidiously making their way towards Aloshio Harbor. John seems to have a pretty commanding lead at the moment, thanks to his use of Revali's Gale. Bebel is not far off behind. And once again, Lindsay and José seem to be about neck and neck in this first third of the triathlon. John is using, once again, Revali's Gale to gain a little bit of height, to avoid as much swimming as possible, ironically, given that since swimming is unfortunately a good deal slower than gliding. And it seems like Bebel is going to be opting for the same strategy. We'll see if Lindsay and José do the same. Bebel opts not to use Revali's Gale, or perhaps is unable to do so, and continues to swim anyway. Lindsay and José are making up, are fast approaching the rocks that that Bebel and John have jumped from. John and Bebel are slowly rounding the corner. And John once again using Revali's Gale to gain a bit of height. José opting to shoot the Octorok in his way. Decides not to shoot it, and instead decides to press on forward. That Octorok got what was coming to them. John is arriving to the third set of rocks. And is now swimming and making a mad dash over them, using a bit of a glide. José is also making use of Revali's Gale to cover a good bit of distance. Bebel here has a Lizalfos to deal with, but John has arrived at Aloshio Harbor and is now on his master cycle. He'll be heading northwest towards Firli Plateau. He has a solid lead now compared to the three other athletes. But there's still plenty of time left in this triathlon. Anything could happen. Hyrule is a highly dangerous and treacherous land, and there's still plenty of opportunities for our other athletes to make time.
Revali's Gale is now ready.
Bebel is almost at Aloshio Harbor, with Lindsay and José following closely. John, unfortunately, takes a bad spill off of his master cycle, hitting a tree, but gets right back on it. He's having some difficulties gaining control of the master cycle. Going through these woods at high speed, of course, is very treacherous. And as we can see, it's not the bokoblins that will be your biggest threat here. Now, Bebel has made it onto Aloshio Harbor, but he, while he's summoned his master cycle, hasn't... now he summons his master cycle, and he is off. José also fast, just behind Bebel, summons their master cycle, and they're off to the Furley Plateau. Lindsay's is almost at Loshio Harbor. Now John jumps off of his master cycle and once again employs a little bit of gliding to help him navigate some of that more tricky terrain. We'll have to do a little bit of climbing to get back up on the path. Lindsay has arrived at Loshio Harbor and has summoned her master cycle and is now off as well. All of our athletes here having a fairly safe route so far. John once again employing the hang glider to maximize speed and avoid obstacles. Bebel, Lindsay, and José clearing the forest area with a lot more ease and grace than John. Oh, but Bebel takes a bad tumble off a cliff. That's gonna cost him some time. José taking a pretty tricky ride across some of the steep mountainside cliffs. And killing a poor bird in the process. We don't endorse that here at the D-Pad Summer Games, but we understand that our athletes often have to do what they can to complete the race. Bebel has successfully dealt with a bokoblin on horseback. Thankfully, that did not. Oh, but it seems like the bokoblin is back for revenge and has dealt Bebel some pretty bad damage. Though Bebel thankfully has some fairies as insurance. John makes an explosive entrance into a bokoblin camp. While Bebel here is climbing up a fortified wall and is back on the master cycle. José is crossing a river bridge, nearly running over a pedestrian. This seems to be a pattern of José's behavior here. And Lindsay is making her way through a field full of guardian wrecks. No doubt foreshadowing to an area later in our triathlon. John is back on swimming, oddly enough, and once again employing that Rivali's Gale to give him some altitude to help him cross this river over here. John still has quite the commanding lead, with Bebel and Lindsay being relatively close. And José seems to be pretty close to where John is currently. Athletes are now headed towards... Our next checkpoint is going to be after the Dueling Peaks. John seems to having and John has reached the end of the Proxim Bridge, and he is now on foot. And José seems to have gotten ahead of him. Bebel and Lindsay are fast approaching the Proxim Bridge. They still have an opportunity to catch up to John and José. While John and José have a lead on both Bebel and Lindsay, they also must cross Hyrule Field, which is filled with many treacherous guardians that have killed many a hero before them. Lindsay has dismounted her bike, and Bebel is just about to dismount his, and now all of our runners are on foot. This is the final leg of the race, and we'll see who will be the first to cross the gates of the Hyrule Castle town ruins and get that gold medal. José's got a couple of skeleton bokoblins behind them. John dodging one of the Sheik ninjas, I believe. Our athletes here are getting very close to the finish line now. With Hyrule Castle drawing ever closer. At this point, all of our athletes are free to take whatever route they feel is quickest for them to get to the goal. All of them opting to avoid any sort of combat where necessary. John and José look to be neck and neck. It's difficult to say who's on first, given their different routes. But based on the distance between them and Hyrule Castle, it's going to be one of them taking the gold and one of them taking the silver. Though that said, Lindsay and Bebel are still hot on their heels, and anything could still happen. And we could see an incredible mix-up. Now José here looks like they were about to use the time stop ability, but instead they need to dispatch one of the ninjas. John dealing, unfortunately, with one of those deadly guardians and dispatching him with a bullseye. Excellent shot there. Now that will have cost him a bit of time. Now, José masterfully dispatching that guardian using the time stop mechanic, along with a bullseye. But John has another and now John has another guardian to deal with. Lindsay also in the middle of combat with a guardian, along with Bebel. All of our runners here are now face to face with one of the deadliest machinations of Hyrule. John seems to have dispatched his. And it seems like José is about to take the gold. This is the first gold for Tierra de los Hermanos hook, and their third medal, along with silver for skateboarding and bronze for fencing. John is at the steps of the gate, securing his silver medal, despite being almost lit ablaze by the Guardian. Now it's all up to Bebel and Lindsay to see who will take the bronze medal in the triathlon. Bebel is employing a little bit of tree climbing to avoid the laser sights of the Guardian's laser cannons, unfortunately taking a nasty hit. But Bebel is at the feet of the gate of the Hyrule Temple ruins, of the Hyrule Town ruins, and crosses it to secure the bronze. Unfortunately, Lindsay was met with a game over. This will cost her quite a bit of time, but thankfully she is not that far from the gates of the Hyrule Town ruins. She's exacting a little bit of revenge on this Guardian, making sure it will not impede her from the rest of the race. Pulling apart each of its legs, completely immobilizing the machine. And now she's off, making a final sprint towards the gates to complete the triathlon. She's employing a serpentine maneuver to avoid the laser sights of the Guardian, and is doing so quite deftly, and is now using a little bit of that of the hot air to get herself a little bit of extra height. And now she is in the home stretch. There, between her and the end of the triathlon is just one last Guardian. She successfully uses a tree to block its laser cannon, and it is now looking like she is once again dismembering the Guardian, rendering it immobile. Unfortunately, she takes a nasty spill from the Guardian and is thankfully revived by Misha's grace. The Guardian is now dismembered, and she has but a few feet to complete the race. And with that, our athletes have successfully completed the D-Pad Summer Games Triathlon. José and John were neck and neck for most of the race, but ultimately José took the gold, with John taking silver. Bebel and Lindsay both made an admirable showing, with Bebel taking the bronze in the end. Thanks to José's performance, Tierra de los Hermanos Hook is now tied with Youbetchastan with 1 gold, silver, and bronze medal each. Imperium Ludum is in 3rd with 1 gold and 1 bronze, and the Daisy Baby Bitch territory is in 4th with 1 silver medal. The 4 nations will still have plenty of opportunities to win medals, starting with tomorrow's event, baseball. That's it for me. Thank you for watching the first 23rd annual D-Pad Summer Games. This is Hypermode, signing off.